Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Today, Riding Shotgun with Charlie is my friend, Steve Moysey. Steve, it's great to have you on here, bud.
Nice to be aboard, Charlie. Thank you very much for asking me.
Steve is an author. He's a speaker. You've got, what, 2 books? Three books. Are you redoing one of them?
No, I've got a couple more in the works.
You got a couple more in the works. So he's an author. He's a speaker. He's spoken at some
big events, yeah.
Several big events. You're a college professor. He's actually a doctor, but not like the doctor that would probably operate on you, but it means he's really smart.
I'm a psychologist.
So,
how does that make you feel?
Great. Maybe I should sit on that side. Maybe you should drive it. Just put it back a little back.
Put your seat back. And we have
All right, let's hit the road. Let's do it. So we are going to go for a drive, and we're going to talk. So, Steve, tell us how you got into... now, this is Riding Shotgun with Charlie, and the way that I met you is I met you at the Worcester Pistol and Rifle Club.
That's right.
A number of years ago.
Yeah, I think I kicked your ass in a pin shoot, didn't I?
Well, let's not go so far. I do...
I kicked your butt in a pin shoot, didn't I?
Chances are good that did happen, but I will tell you, the one of the pictures I have that I love the most, and I have it on one of my PowerPoints, is the picture where you got a revolver, and I kicked your ass on a revolver.
That's right, you did, yeah.
So that was pretty cool. So that's how we ended up meeting. We ended up meeting at a shooting range.
We did.
And we started shooting together at the bowling pin shoots and a couple of IDPA shoots. How did you get into shooting? Now, I know you've got a military background from being in England.
Yeah, that's right. And I got into shooting basically in the UK with clay pigeon shooting, hunting, pheasants and stuff.
Oh, cool.
There was a farm in the family, so I used to do rough shooting there.
Yeah.
Me and the dog and that kind of thing. And then I got into other endeavours where I was trained to use firearms.
Yeah.
And really got into pistol shooting and enjoyed it immensely. And when I came over to the States, obviously there was far more opportunity for shooting than there was in the UK. I mean, the UK had been through a series of unfortunate illegal shooting events which had caused the government to crack down on both the licensing of firearms and the availability of firearms. So whereas before, you could have a Browning 5-shot semi-automatic shotgun, you had to take it into a gunsmith and have it limited to 2 rounds and things like that. So
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and basically handguns are banned in the UK unless you're law enforcement or military.
I love the Robin Williams bit where he says in England the police tell you stop or I'll yell stop again.
Well, I got a funny story about that, which I won't bore you too much with at the moment. But if you remember, I wrote a book about the Irish Republican Army.
Yes.
It's called The Road to Balcombe Street, the IRA Reign of Terror in London. It's in its 2nd edition. You can get it on Amazon.com. Great read. Currently in pre-production as a movie as well. But one of my dear friends, John Pennell, who was a uniformed inspector in the 70s when this happened, was involved in chasing 4 heavily armed IRA terrorists and cornering them in an apartment building.
Wow.
And John tells the story because he was unarmed. It was him and his sergeant, both unarmed. All they had was a radio between the 2 of them. And he's chasing these IRA terrorists armed with handguns, and they had semi-automatic weapons and an automatic submachine gun in a bag. And they're running down the street in London, and the bad guys start turning around shooting at John and his sergeant.
Oh my gosh.
So John, full of vim and vigour, yells at the top of his lungs, "Stop, police!" And his sergeant looked at him and said, "What the hell are you doing? If they stop, they're going to kill us." So yeah, it's unusual for a police to be armed in the UK.
God, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But whatever, it is what it is, right?
It is what it is.
It is. I got to tell you, I spent a whopping 6 hours in London about 20 years ago.
I can tell it must have affected you deeply.
I had about a 6-hour hangover.
Hangover or layover?
I mean a hangover. I was going to teach conversational English in Poland, and we had a layover in London. So we drank everything they had on the airplane, and then we got to London. We got on the tube. I went to Piccadilly Circus. I went to Buckingham Palace, and went and had a few beers with the girls I was with in the Soho area, and then we had to get back to the airport to get on the plane to go to Poland.
Well, so you've experienced the alcoholic delights of British Airways and some London pubs.
Absolutely.
Best pubs in the world.
This is what you do, right? When in London, do as the Frenchman.
But yeah, to go back to the shooting side of things. I came over here, and then I was with the British government for some time when I came over here. Then I got back into academia, and then wanted to get a firearms license. And the way to get a firearms license in Massachusetts is you go to Goal and you take a training course, and that's where I met our mutual friend John Green.
Dr. John Green, and
he put me through the paces, and which was just really basically knocking the rust off my pistol handling skills.
Right.
And the rest was history for me, because John was instrumental in my growing addiction for shooting sports.
Nice.
As you know, he's an enabler and a dear friend.
He is.
He would call me up, and he calls me Doc. He'd call me up, hey Doc, you want to try IDPA? What's IDPA? Well, International Defensive Pistol Association. And I hadn't got my license by that point. And I said, well, I haven't got a license and I haven't got my gun. Don't worry about that. We'll lend you all the gear. Come on, come down and give it a go. So we gave it a try. But then I moved again from that, and John encouraged me to become an instructor, and then you and I met, and the shooting sports have been part of my life ever since.
That's great, man. That's a lot of fun. How did you end up getting over here to the United States?
I came on a 2-year assignment. I was supposed to be here for 24 months. Then I was asked would I stay for an extra year, and by that point I was kind of liking New England, and particularly the Boston area, even though I sort of had to pretend to be an Australian at times. And South Boston's not a very friendly place for English people.
Right.
And especially during the early 90s. And then that extra year turned into another extra year, and by that time 5 years had rolled round, they got me a green card.
Nice.
And then I reached the point where I really had enough of what I was doing, but I didn't want to leave the States. And so I got the opportunity to go back to school at Tufts University, my second alma mater, and did a master's and PhD there. Wow. And stayed on. Met my lovely wife Monica, who's from Connecticut, and that was it really. So this is home.
Cool.
Yeah.
What the phrase that you like to use that you describe yourself is the American by choice.
I am an American. Yes, I'm an American by choice.
I love that.
I chose to become an American, and I've got to tell you, it was a very emotional process for me.
Oh, I can imagine.
And it wasn't an easy process. People say, "Oh, you become a U.S. citizen. That's not that big, not that hard." It is. And being a very anally retentive perfectionist, you go through all these steps to get your U.S. citizenship. The final step, you go through biometrics, you go through background checks, and you fill out all this paperwork. But the final step was I went for my last set of biometrics, and they give you a booklet, and in that booklet was a CD with 100 questions on it regarding American government, civics, and that kind of thing. So I play it in the car, and I was absolutely acing it. And my wife, a native of New England, would go, "I didn't know that one. I didn't know that one. You know the answer to all of these." So the day came for my final test, as it were. So I show up at the immigration place in Boston, and the young lady administering the test says, "I'm going to ask you some questions," and I'm like,
Let's
"Excellent,
go.
excellent." She asked me 10 questions, and I aced them all. And she said, "Well, that's it." What do you mean that's it? There's 90 more questions you can ask me. We're done. I just need you to write me a sentence out now.
Oh my gosh, that's it?
I said, "What sentence?" She said, "Just write out, 'It's a beautiful day in Boston today.'" So I wrote that out. Okay, she said, "That's it, you're done." So then my letter in the mail comes, and and says, your appointment for naturalization, swearing in, is at the Lowell Auditorium. And they stagger the arrival of all the participants. So by the time I waited, and my wife's up in the balcony watching all this, there were 978 people in the Lowell Auditorium, and we all got to stand up and raise our right hands and swear allegiance to the flag. And
That's cool.
I actually got pretty choked up.
I can imagine.
And the judge, they turned the auditorium into a courtroom, and they had the National Guard, honor guard come in, and they had a choir from the state police and all that stuff. It was really nice. And the judge who swore us in said, "You are as much an American as I am. Don't let anybody tell you differently." I got pretty choked.
That's really cool.
That was emotional. So the first thing I did after, I did two things straight after that. Went off and got a passport application. I went down to the police station and got an application for a firearms license.
Nice.
So so I thought, well, I'm a US citizen now. I should be able to enjoy all the rights and benefits afforded to me as such.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you run into any snags when you went to get a gun license?
None whatsoever.
None. What?
Except for the licensing officer looking me a little sort of sideways at my accent. But when I showed him my appropriate paperwork, he's like, "Oh, okay, fair enough."
This is where you're from? You said Worcester?
No, I said I'm Grafton at the time. Yeah. So no snags whatsoever. And it was the Grafton Police Department, and they're very pro Second Amendment, so I had no issue with them whatsoever.
That's cool. Good deal.
No issue whatsoever. So yeah.
Very cool. I had a friend that moved here. I met him teaching at a shooting school, and he's English. His name is Ian, and Ian lived in Northborough and went to get his LTC, or his license to carry, and the chief of police gave him a hard time about it.
Why?
Ian became a naturalized citizen. He married an American woman, moved over here, like he lived here, worked here. But since he wasn't born here, the police gave him I don't even think it was a restricted LTC.
What?
I want to say it was like an FID card.
Well,
so
as that judge said to me, I'm as much an American as
anyone else,
as he
right?
was, which is actually not true, because if I were ever to lose my mental faculties and decide to run for president, I couldn't.
Oh, you couldn't.
So,
that's wild. Totally unrelated. I think, speaking of coming here and living in America, your own American dream. One of the guys that I absolutely admire for the whole American experience is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
oh yeah,
I mean,
the governor.
The governor. This is what I love about Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was a bodybuilder in Austria and spoke no English. I actually saw a video this past week of him on a movie that Lucille Ball was in, and I want to say her husband.
Ball.
Yes,
Desi Arnaz.
It wasn't Desi Arnaz, but I want to say it was Art Carney. They were married. Lucille Ball and Art Carney were married. They were an old couple, and Schwarzenegger was a masseuse, and she was having a massage. So, and you can tell it was the 70s because Lucille Ball was old, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, his lines were like, "Yes, I'm here to massage." And
I'll be back.
Right. It was all.
On
it
your
was
back.
all that.
On your back. Yeah.
It was all that. It was really, really horrible acting. But Arnold Schwarzenegger comes over here. He doesn't speak the language. He's a horrible actor. They have to feed him lines. He gets to the point where he's a successful actor and then a millionaire, and then he marries a Kennedy and becomes a politician. Like, he's
living the dream, brother.
It is living the American dream.
Well, I mean, my experience was not quite like Arnold's, but there is a significant language barrier that most people don't realise that exists between the US and the UK.
Between the English and the and the American
English and English.
Right.
And in fact, I actually wrote a little book about that.
You did write a book about that.
Which came off of a lecture series I gave when I was teaching grad school at Tufts about dealing with multinational companies and international business. And I will confess that book, I Said a Bad Word, Blunders of a Brit in Boston, is a little self-depreciating because I actually threw some pretty funny stories that are at my expense into the mix.
There are some good stories in there.
Yeah, well, you wrote the foreword to the book.
I did write the foreword to the book, which is pretty cool.
There are lots of funny and embarrassing episodes when navigating American English with an English mindset.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so I feel bad for Arnold, because I'm sure he had a rough time of getting to grips with the language.
Oh, sure.
But then if he speaks German, then he's learning American English instead of English. So,
right.
Yeah, I have a lot of admiration for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I think he's great, man. I mean, really, God bless him. God bless him. I don't, whatever, things have happened to him and that haven't gone so well, and that's okay too.
Hey, yeah, let those without sin cast the first stone, brother.
Exactly. Let's talk more about your book. Let's tell us some stories about that are in your book. We don't want to tell them all the good stories. We're going to tell them some good stories.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting mix when you look at both the customs of America and the languages of America, and you think coming from the UK that it would be a fairly easy transition.
Right.
It's not that difficult, but there are a minefield of mistakes waiting for the unsuspected British expat. I mean, you have to remember, as a kid growing up in the UK, we were fed a diet of American TV shows.
Oh, sure.
In fact, my mum's favourite show was the I Love Lucy show. So you got I Love Lucy, Gunsmoke, Streets of San Francisco, Kojak,
right.
Happy Days. It was one of my dad's favourite shows, actually. And so there's this diet of American TV shows which paint a kind of a stereotyped image of what America is like.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sort of announced to my family that I was being sent to the States for 2 years, my mother literally fainted because she thought, and we brought her around with some smelling salts and a large chinzana on the rocks. But she had this stereotypical image of me going to the States and getting hooked up with a street gang, doing crack, being busted for racketeering. I don't know what she thought. But
riding a motorcycle.
And my dad was kind of aghast at the whole notion of me spending a couple of years in America, because he blamed America, and I'm going to use a non-PC word here. He blamed America and American culture for the pansification of the UK. And he cursed the things like McDonald's, and which was unusual because he actually worked for some time for an American company, Frigidaire. But then he blamed the downward trend in pubs serving up ice cold American beer instead of good traditional English beer, and so there was a little bit of cultural resistance in my family to coming over here, and even my friends were saying, "What the hell are you doing? What are you going to America for? The place is big and brash and rude and ugly and
right."
Well, my experience wasn't that when I got here, but I will say I did have a few foot in the mouth experiences.
Right, these are great.
And the one that caused me the most innocent embarrassment afterwards was when the lady in charge of HR, when I came over as an expat, they did a car lease for me.
Yeah.
And so she sits me down in her office and explains the various ins and outs of this car lease for this Ford Taurus wagon. It was like driving a green whale. It was an awful experience. But she said, well, you might want to join AAA. And I said, what's AAA? She said, oh, it's the American Automobile Association. So I sort of sat for a second. I thought, oh, yeah, I was a long-time member of AA back in the UK. And she looked at me like I just, as my grandmother would say, that she lost a shilling and found a tuppence, a penny. And her face went like white as a ghost. And I just blindly carried on. Oh yeah, they're great. I pay them my annual dues, and if I get into trouble, I just give them a call, and there's always somebody there to help me. And she's looking at me going, AA. I said, yeah, they're really good. They're really good. They really know how to look after you. Mm-hmm. And so I left her office not realising what it is I probably insinuated I was a member of.
Right.
And so for about 3 weeks after that, every time I saw her in the corridor, she'd slow down and go, how are you doing, my dear?
Oh my God.
Is everything okay? Is there anything we can do for you? No, everything's great, everything's fine.
Oh my
And when
goodness.
I finally got my AAA membership, she said, she was doing one of her, the how are you, my dear?
Right.
So I pulled out my AAA membership card. Look, I got the AAA membership card. And I pulled out my old Automobile Association card from the UK. I said, look, it's just like my Automobile Association. And she looked at it and went, Automobile Association. Ha! And she walked off down this corridor going, Automobile Association. Ha!
Of course.
She thought it was Alcoholics Anonymous.
Oh my God, that's great.
Oh dear. So so there are many episodes like that where you innocently open your mouth and something comes out.
The one I love the most is when you talk about being in the office and somebody got pissed.
Oh God, yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah, because to an English person, I mean, if you say, Charlie was pissed last night, to an Englishman, an English person, it's clear and unequivocal what that means.
Right.
But Charlie had been down the pub, he drank too deeply of the cup of Bacchus and was pissed, hammered, Brahms and Liszt, full as an egg, 3 sheets to the wind. Drunk. Drunk. Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't realise that Americans drop the second part of a British expression, that it kind of expresses annoyance.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in a meeting in Boston, and this guy said to this empty chair that was opposite me, Fred was so pissed at this meeting last week we couldn't get any sense out of it. So I sat there sort of shocked. I'm like, I'm fairly new at this and haven't been in Boston very long.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, if he was pissed, why didn't you send him home? They're like, well, he was okay after a while. We calmed him down. I'm like, I'm thinking, you calm down a drunk? How do you calm down a drunk? Well, I didn't realise, but Americans will say pissed, whereas Americans will say pissed off.
Right.
Brits will say pissed off. So that was interesting for me. And the other thing that really puzzled me when I first came over here was all these blue laws, that still exist on the books.
Oh, right. Yeah, the crazy old laws.
It's 1993, and I'm going to go down the what we call the off licence in the UK, but you call them packies here, right, which was also a bit of a mystery to me because packy is a derisory term in the UK for somebody from Pakistan. So I'm like, why would I go and see a Pakistani to go and buy a beer on a Sunday? But so I went down the packy on a Sunday lunchtime to get some beer, and the place was shut. I'm like, what the hell gives here? Who closes an off licence on a Sunday? Well, I was informed later that it's part of the blue laws. You don't sell alcohol on a Sunday in Massachusetts.
Right.
At the time, anyway. So that was intriguing.
The first time that I came across this, I didn't. I came to Boston for college, and then after college, I went back to the Midwest. I lived in Nashville. I played in a band, and then moved back to the Midwest again, and ended up moving back to Boston for a job. So when I moved back to Boston as an adult, and I always use air quotes because I came back as a musician.
I still don't feel grown up now, but that's
I like to tell people, the difference between a musician and a mutual fund is a mutual fund eventually matures.
I'll tell my wife that.
She'll love it. So I moved here, and it was I reconnected with some friends that I had in college. So we were watching it was a Sunday, and the football game was on. I'm like, well, let's get some beers and watch the football game. And they're like, what do you want to drive to New Hampshire for? Right. I'm like, drive to New Hampshire for what? They have television right here. Why do we have to go to New Hampshire? They're like, you can't get any alcohol on Sunday. I'm like, what? That's ridiculous. Like, you can get it at you can get it at a gas station on a Sunday at 11 o'clock in the morning. This is ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty uncivilized, actually.
What's even crazier is, even back then in the mid-90s, is you could, the package stores were open on Sundays from Thanksgiving to New Year's.
Yeah, because they don't want people going up north to New Hampshire buying beer on
right, so if it's good for 5 weeks, how come it's not good for the other?
Well, I think they eventually saw the error of their ways and yielded to the pressure from the package store owners.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. Yeah. Completely ridiculous.
So my little book, I said a bad word, has got some good reviews. In fact, one of my mentors when I was starting my doctoral research is still a mentor and a friend now, Dr. Bob Cialdini. He's the most published social psychology in if not the world, it's definitely the country. He wrote a great book called Influence, about the psychology of influence, and he's been a great mentor. And he actually he bought a copy and he read it, and he posted it on Amazon. He said,
that's awesome.
It's only a little book. Well, it's not that. It's about 120 pages long. But he said it's obvious from Steve's psychology training, because it's very insightful in terms of stereotypes and how people deal with moving to a different area. And people think, it's going to be exciting going to a different country. You go on vacation for a week or 2 weeks, and it's way different from actually committing to a 2-year or longer period in another country.
Oh, sure.
Particularly when it's at least an 8-hour flight away from home. Because you've got issues like, you know, doctors. Who do you go to? You know, dentists.
Yeah.
You know, and the people that you trust to sort of take care of you, you don't have them. So, you know, for me, the one of the most stressful things was finding a dentist. I am mortally afraid of dentists. And my first dentist in the States was Swiss. It wasn't his fault, but he said it just like Laurence Olivier in the movie Marathon Man. You remember Dr. Zell, the guy who drilled holes in Dustin Hoffman's teeth? You know, is it safe? Is it safe? Gives him oil and clothes.
Is it safe?
Yeah.
I don't think I want to hear, is it safe from my dentist?
Well, for him to pick up the diamonds, and he's drilling holes in his front teeth. Yeah.
Oh,
so
my
this guy's
gosh.
probing around in my mouth with his sharp implement. And I kept expecting him to say, "Is it safe?" You know, as he digs into a filling. So I kind of kicked him into touch, and somebody put me on this really great dentist who actually had to retire because of a neck problem. She was a tall, gay lady with a very ample bosom. Now, I only mention her bosom because dental examinations from her were sort of rather up close,
right.
and suffocating in a somewhat comforting,
way.
a rather comforting manner. You know, but she was a great dentist, and she used to give me this little teddy bear to hold when she was drilling my teeth.
How old were you?
Old enough. But it would be funny because she was like, "Okay, Steve, Steve, you can let go of it now." You know, the poor thing, if it was actually alive, would have been dead because I had a death grip by the throat. You know,
Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
So anyway, that's, you know, coming to America kind of thing. So
I had my wisdom teeth pulled from a Chinese dentist in Brookline a long time ago, and I don't know. I'm sure he used Novocaine, but I don't remember. I was out cold, like, you know. And then he pulled the tooth out. It's about this big, and I'm like, "That's pretty cool. Can I keep that?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "But it's mine."
not anymore. It's not.
Yeah, I was out.
It goes in the jar of formaldehyde in his office.
Right. I'm like, how does it? I can keep my kids' teeth when they lose them, but I can't keep my adult teeth when
What are
they
you
get
going to put it
extracted.
under the pillow and hope the tooth fairy slipped a $5 bill under there?
I don't know. Turn it into a necklace or something.
Oh my God, that's a little grim.
Yeah, well, hey, what the heck, right?
Oh dear.
Put a little collection.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Anyway, well, listen, Steve, we are just about out of time, so we are almost where we need to go. I think we're going to grab a coffee up here as soon as traffic lets us through. And it's been a pleasure having you on. This is a lot of fun. I hope we get another chance to do this again, to talk about some more stuff. We could talk about your, keep talking about your book, your, we haven't talked about your speaking career.
No, we haven't.
That would be cool to talk about that.
And my music obsessions, but that's another
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we got to totally talk about that next time. Absolutely, because you've done some work on like a local radio show, hosting a radio show, talking about music, right?
Yeah. I'm a frequent guest on the Worcester NPR show, WICN, on my good friend Dr. Tom Shaker's show, The Soul Serenade. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, Charlie, if ever you want to invite me back, I'd be more than happy to come and
I would
ride shotgun with you again.
I would love to have you ride shotgun again.
Excellent.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Pleasure, Charlie. Thank
Thanks
you very
a lot.
much.